And now we have, literally, I'm not BSing you, listeners, this guy may be the smartest businessman I've ever met. He's in the studio every day. He gives our traffic. Keith Gunther, welcome. You're going to be hosting the next half an hour, and we're going to be talking about recycling. Wow. So we go from the prostate to Wall Street to recycling. Is this an eclectic show or what? Okay, we got a nice opening for the Big Duck. Here it is.
It's time for Bits, Bytes, and Buzzwords with Keith and Keith.
Welcome to the Bits, Bytes, and Buzzwords show with Keith Gunther, and my co-host Keith Grimm is not here today, but we have a very special guest that's going to talk about something very important to a lot of folks out there, whether you're in business or a private person with a home business or a large company, and that is Chet Sato with CJ Sato Recycling here in Ventura. Welcome, Chet.
Well, thank you, Keith.
You know, Chet has a company here that does something that's extremely unique in the industry, and we're going to get into that today as we cover that. You know, last week we talked about the JPL visit that I had in the Mars rover, and I just noticed this week that they've decided to move the rover from one crater to another 7 miles away. It's going to take 2 months to go 7 miles, so they move pretty slow up there in space, but we move a lot quicker down here on Earth, and we're getting ready for the E-Extravaganza, which is coming Saturday and Sunday at the Palm Shopping Center at 101 and Rice Avenue. We've got 125 vendors now lined up, and we've also expecting about 3,000 or 4,000 people. We're giving away an e-car, fully electric car, and I think the highlight of the whole event is going to be the recycling system that CJ Sato and company have set up. So, you know, what I'd like to do is kind of introduce folks to the whole concept of what we're doing today with recycling, because I think there's an interesting story here. Everybody is kind of used to people, you know, dumping a computer off at either a landfill or maybe they give it to somebody and they ship it off to India or somewhere like that, and there really never used to be a real market for recycling electronic parts and LCDs and CRTs in this country, but that's all changed. So Chet, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, CJ Sato was formed 9 years ago. Our primary service is environmental health and safety compliance, and from there we branched off into collecting and recycling electronic waste as well as universal waste, which includes light bulbs and batteries and so forth. So we kind of went to where the opportunity was, and we saw that there was a need for it out there. There wasn't a company out there providing these services, and we figured, well, I might as well get in at the beginning. So we've been doing this ever since 2005, when the state enacted the law that required electronic waste be properly recycled.
And I know that you have a history with the military and the Navy, don't you?
Well, I was just recently retired from the Navy. I served 7 years active and 23 years in the reserves. So I got a nice letter from BPER saying your 30 years is up. It's time to make room for somebody else.
So maybe that's why you run this company with a lot of precision, and you're able to make this a successful venture, I think, because it's very complex, isn't it?
It is complex, and I think the reason that we're successful is electronic waste is a very small portion of our business. We run it like an operation. We run it like a military operation. And because of that, we have very low overhead. We're very efficient from our overhead costing standpoint. And unlike some of our competitors, this is not our sole source of revenue. So we don't have to charge a lot for our services. As a matter of fact, if you bring computers or monitors or TVs to our facilities, monitors and TV we take for free. The other ways we do charge a small fee, but the fee is really to offset our costs. So unlike most collectors, we do offer this for free, and we do offer collection events for free. We do a lot of events for cities. We just completed one for the City Moore Park. We're getting ready to do one for the city of Simi Valley in January, and those have been very successful events. It's great for the cities because they get to count every single pound of electronic waste that we collect as part of their landfill diversion goals. Oh. So any cities that's falling behind or is having a difficult time reaching their 75% recycling goal, then they can run one of these events. We just did one for Moore Park this past weekend. We generated close to 18,000 pounds of electronic waste that didn't go into a landfill.
That's fantastic, because everything that goes into the landfill, there's a lot of half-lives and long lives on all kinds of gold and minerals and mercury, and of course being the computer guy, I know that silicone is a very very poisonous process to make a silicon chip because it has to be done in a certain way with certain chemicals that will hold that electric charge. I know that's a big key to computers, is being able to hold that charge in a very small amount. But in order to accomplish what we've done, you have to shrink those circuit boards down very small, so you've got a real intense, they're small amounts, but they're very intense amounts of chemicals and materials in those boards. Yeah. And I think another thing that I've noticed with your organization is, we went to a lot of different organizations in the county to help us with the e-extravaganza. And, of course, it wasn't that they didn't want to. It was that, the city of Oxnard, the city of Camarillo, they all have to only take things from that particular area. And, of course, with an event like the e-extravaganza, people coming from all over, from different cities and counties, can't guarantee that's going to be just from Oxnard or just from Camarillo. So we were kind of in a snafu there because most of the private organizations we went to weren't really as adept at your organization at offering a full service. So we're very excited because I think that the organization is going to be bringing out a lot of people and trucks and all the materials and equipment they need to successfully and effectively recycle, computers, fax machines, the CRT screens we talked about, and really anything electronic, take video games back. And that, I think, is a great service, and I think it's something that's probably going to become a lot more important. I know that I've spent this last week talking to a lot of companies like Haas Automation, Amgen, companies like that, to let them know that this is a service that's going to be there at the e-extravaganza. It's not just for your home user. And so that's kind of the nice thing is, instead of having to say, oh gosh, I hope we don't get too much, we can say bring all you got and keep it out of the landfills. I think that's important. And
I think what you'll find is a lot of cities and counties offer electronic waste collection programs, but those are mainly for residents within their cities. And in many cases, there is a limit on the number that you can bring. So for businesses, it's pretty much up to themselves. So for these events, for businesses to bring literally truckloads of their e-waste and drop it off for free, if I were to go and pick it up, we would literally charge them thousands of dollars for that. So here's a great opportunity for them to, if they're thinking about upgrading their system, then they can bring in their old system. We can take it for free, and this will allow them to one, create the space to bring in the new system, and two, they don't have to pay, once again, to pay thousands of dollars to get rid of it.
And, of course, at All City, we love that story because once you can recycle what you have and do a technology refresh, and we talked about this in prior weeks, the whole Ecotec idea is that a server that's only 4 years old could have up to a 50% savings in electricity over a year with a newer system. That's $300 or $400 a year just for that one piece of equipment. So it really is a nice story that we have, and part of our Ecotec vision is that we want to make sure that organizations know that there's a lot more to doing a technology refresh than just having something that's 10 times faster, 10 times more storage. Hey, it's also going to throw out less heat and take less electricity to run. So I think that what we're seeing right now is more creative ways to recycle things that you couldn't in the past. And another big issue with recycling computers is those hard drives, those spinning disks that contain all that information that we talk about in data storage and bits, bytes, and buzzwords, those ones and zeros. Nobody wants to turn in a hard drive with ones and zeros that somebody could possibly take and read. In fact, the government has strict policies on that. And what they do at CJ Sato Recycling is that they actually destroy those hard drives, or they also degauss them, which is a way of demagnetizing that hard drive with a strong magnet. Yeah. Can you imagine how many tons per year of electronic waste is out there? In 2005, it was 2.2 million tons. Estimates today are probably 2 or 3 times, maybe even 5 times that much. And we're trying to get up into the 20 to 30% of that being recycled, which is a challenge and probably an aggressive goal. But I think with companies like Chet's, that's going to happen for us, and I'm pleased to see it. And I appreciate what you're doing for our county, Chet, because we are green here.
Well, and we're getting better. So there is a movement, and I think a lot of cities and the counties are jumping on board. They see the value in it, and it's also providing a service to the residents and the businesses.
Yeah, that's great because, if you have more questions on this, you can call CJ Seto. They're on the internet at, what is your website?
It's cjseto.com.
Well, we've got gigabytes, megabytes. Gigabytes are 1,000 megabytes.
Is that like mosquito bites? Mm-hmm. If you get like one mosquito bite, how many megabytes is that?
Well, it's a 8-bit byte. So each byte is 8 bits, or 8 zeros and ones.
One mosquito bite is 8
bits. If it's a computer's mosquito bite, 8 bits. And you get up to an exobyte is 1,000 terabytes. And basically, 1.5 exobytes is all words ever spoken by humans except lawyers.
Now,
With lawyers, it's 2 exobytes.